Oh, hi there, artists. Today we're going to be making an image inspired by the artwork of Rayner. She's an awesome illustrator. She made a bunch of books, but one of my favorites is called Hare Finds His Feet. Now, I made this image as a practice one, and I hope you have fun thinking about how you can make a little rabbit based on the artwork of Rayner as well. So I'm going to set this one off to the side. Yours might look different, depending on what materials you have and how you're feeling like you're going to make your marks. So I'm rolling up my sleeves, getting ready, and I'm going to collect my materials. You'll need a fresh sheet of paper, a pencil for all of your light lines. Don't go flinging yours around. Luckily, I've got a whole bunch of them laying around. And then you've got to find something that makes a permanent mark, especially if you're going to be using any water-based things like markers. So I'm going to choose one of these Bic branded fine point permanent markers. You can use a Sharpie, you can use a pen, or if you want to skip this step, you can use a black crayon. Okay, so here we go. I always like to start in the middle of my page, and it gets everything going. I'm going to make a really light Y shape right in the middle of my page. Okay, and that sort of sets the stage for the rest of the image. You can kind of see how I made that over here. And then I'm going to very, very lightly bring it up to about where I think my little hare or jackrabbit, where his or her eyes belong. Okay? At that point, I have to decide, do I want to make tiny little dots for eyes, circles for eyes? Do I want them the same size? Kind of up to you. If you want it to look a little crazy, this one looks like he's thoughtful. I think I'm going to make one that looks a little bit like he or she woke up on the wrong side of the bed. So I'm going to intentionally make my eyes two different sizes. Okay? Add a little bit of silly to it. Okay? Just like that. At that point, see how I finished my line right there and then I added my eyes all the way on the outside of my page? Okay, at that point, what you're going to do is bring a line up from that that is going to tilt out towards one of the edges of the paper, and then do the same thing over here. It doesn't have to be straight, it doesn't have to be curved, it can wiggle all over the place, but the direction you want is toward the end of one of the sheets, the edge of your paper. Then we're going to do the inside of the ear. I like to think of it sort of like an ear of corn or a football shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. Then I have to decide how wide my ear is. I'm going to make my ear thin right there, but wider over here because rabbits can turn their ears. And all you have left to do for your rabbit's head is to make a fuzzy looking line in between the ears. Then, since rabbits don't have floating heads, we've got to add in the shoulders. And then you've got a Rayner inspired rabbit portrait. Next, what we're going to do is trace any lines that we want to stay if we get it wet. So I'm going to trace my nose shape and fill this little guy in right here and give some of my lines a little bit more weight. And then I think instead of wanting my eyes to be colored in like that, I'm going to make what I call a hot spot or a shine on the eye because eyes are wet. Okay, so I'm going to use my marker here. And I usually tell you, don't color with the Sharpies. Don't color. Don't fill in with the permanent markers. I'm breaking that rule right now. This is one of those exceptions. And I don't have to trace exactly my line. They're just there as a guide. They're there to show me where to go. And I'm going to apologize for my crazy dogs we're seeing actual rabbits outside. How meta. There we go. Line, line. And your lines don't even have to be full. There we go. So all I've got left to do is add color. If you want to use crayons at this point, go ahead. If you want to use markers at this point, awesome. The important thing to do is to make sure you've got a variety of color. Otherwise, it's just a big brown bunny. That's not that fun. So what I'm going to do is start with, since I've got markers here today, I'm going to start with these three colors: yellow, orange, and a nice warm brown. I'm going to think about any area that I want to be lighter. Kind of like the tip of the nose, maybe the area around one side of the eye, maybe over here. Okay, kind of like this. And this guy is going to be, or gal, is going to be lighter in color than my previous one over here. Okay, so I'm adding a whole bunch of yellow to the chest. And what I'm going to do eventually is use a few drops of water, or maybe some drops of leftover coffee from the morning. I like to color with coffee. Or just a plain Q-tip with a little bit of water in it, just to make things damp and let the water do the work of diffusing. If you're coloring, what you're going to do is use your finger to kind of rub between the colors and make it blend. Okay, so around the edges of wherever I want it to be a little bit darker, I'm going to go around it. And if this looks a little bit like that Shepherd Fairy Obama Hope poster, it kind of should, because I'm using some of my areas as color zones. You're probably not going to see a whole lot of this orange when we're done, so I can just kind of scribble scrabble. Okay, because I'm going to use a whole lot of brown, and then I'm going to use a whole lot of nothing, because I want my colors to diffuse. That means mix a little bit when water hits it. And you'll see what I'm talking about in just a minute. This is sort of one of those artist tricks that I teach kids. They're like, wow, I can paint with markers? Yeah, actually, the stuff that's in these markers, like Crayolas or the Sargent or even the Prang, any of those water-based or washable markers, you can get wet again and they'll act just like paint. And the fun thing about Catherine Rayner's artwork is that she kind of makes it look sketchy or very loose on purpose. And I forgot an important detail. These crazy whiskers that rabbits sometimes have. They don't have to be straight. They don't have to be wiggly. You can make them the way you want them to look. My next step is to use one of my brushes. Since I've got them, I might as well use them. With just a little bit of water on my brush, I'm going to just make the colors be friends a little bit. I'm going to do my best to stay inside my marker lines, and then I'm going to let the water do all the work of making the color mix and spread out. So I'm just literally getting my paper really damp and putting puddles of color and dragging color from one part of my picture into another. See how it kind of spreads out? I don't want that yellow to really pop. Shouldn't want it to be very yellow because rabbits aren't really yellow. I just wanted it to be a lighter area. And then what I can do, if I want, once this is dry, is use color pencil or crayon on top of what I already drew to give it those fuzzy details. So this one is like halfway done because now I have to give it some time all by itself to dry and let it do its thing. So I'm going to move it off to the side. I'm going to take my crayons and add just a little bit of brown and sketchy marks to where I want my rabbit to look a little bit less gestured and a little bit more colored in. Now, if you want to stop here and call it quits, cool. That'll look awesome. If you want to add a little bit more once it's dry, because you're seeing some blank spots, or you just want to fill some in, or you want to add maybe with a color pencil, you want to make it look like it's got some extra hairs, where you feel like, boy, that area looks like it's too light or not red enough, or a little bit more orange is needed to make it look all the way finished. You do you. All right, I hope you had fun trying out different ways of making a Catherine Rayner inspired rabbit illustration. I hope you had fun. I'll see you later. Be kind to your families.